The next item, welcoming Ms. Van Soest again to the podium, revision to regulation LBD *R, relations with district charter schools. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening again. To follow recent legislation around the Student Success Act and House Bill 14-1292, the regulation LBD-R, relations with the district charter schools, is recommended for revision. The regulation provides guidance for district charters in the areas of establishment, review, renewal, and closure.
This is an action item. I'll be glad to accept a motion at this time.
I move that the Board of Education of Wall County School District 6 approve the revisions to regulation LBD-R, relations with district charter schools, parentheses, procedures for establishment, review, renewal, revocation, and closure as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments? Or did you have more to offer from this perspective?
No, that's
We've
it.
discussed and read through this material. I don't see anyone willing or interested in expressing an opinion at this time or a question, so I'll turn this to the roll call, please, Ms. Berea.
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
And the motion carries 6-0.
The next item is revision to policy GCBD, professional staff fringe benefits, and Chief Human Resource Officer Dr. Kevin Ayton is here to give us a little bit of information if we need it. This is an action item, and I'll accept a motion at this time.
I move that the Board of Education of Wall County School District 6 approve the revisions to policy GCBD, professional staff fringe benefits, as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Dr. Ayton, comment or an intro?
I do. I have one indulgence. Good evening, President DeWitt, members of the board, Superintendent Eads. We made 4 basic changes to this policy to reflect the broader group. This was usually be covered and provided fringe and staff benefits to, it says administrative, but really we call that group our administrative, professional, and technical group. And so this allows us to stay in line with our auditors and use the word that is more inclusive. Here's the indulgence. Could I also ask that we strike that word licensed from the second added paragraph? And adding back some paragraphs and some things and how many times we look at these, it shouldn't say licensed. It should just read full-time employees. So if I could make that from the podium, I would appreciate your indulgence in that, and as a friendly amendment or something to the, is that okay?
We would certainly
because it is,
accept
it's
that.
just a typo. It shouldn't be in there.
So stated, I think.
So, and then the other, we made
Would you
4
like to
changes.
make a motion to that effect?
Just make an amended motion to strike the license.
Strike
Okay.
the license feature. Okay.
Right, but the rest is, it's 4 changes from the word admin to professional.
Okay.
And adding that little paragraph that ensures people have those benefits. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That would need a second.
That will need a second. I was just lining up what
Second.
we'll need to do. So it's been moved and seconded that we would make an adjustment to that, responding to the license, term license.
Yeah. Right.
Comment or question? Roll call, Ms. Brea?
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Again.
That was confusing for a moment.
Am I here?
Sorry, I was just playing out things a little early. Go ahead.
Just skip right over it.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
And the motion carries 6-0.
That was exciting. And now I believe we're ready to consider the motion for
Thank you.
GCBD. Other comments or questions about that at this time? A roll call, Ms. Brea.
Which one are we on?
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
And the motion carries 6-0.
Well done.
Thank you.
Revisions to policy GCG/GCGA, part-time and substitute professional staff. Dr. Ayton will stand by with specifics, but it is an action item, and I'll accept a motion at this time.
I move that the Board of Education of Wall County School District 6 approve the revisions to GCG/GCGA, part-time and substitute professional staff as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Dr. Ayton?
Thank you. This policy is, again, a minor change to show the more inclusiveness. We have other kinds of substitutes besides teachers, and they substitute for us in classified and paraprofessional roles across the district. We're glad to have them, and our policy should reflect that. Also, we removed some outdated references to the salary based on the salary schedule, and we currently do not do that anymore. Our long-term daily rate is approved at $179.95 a day on the 16th day, and our sub rate is $90. But that's something that we've, in the past, have brought to you for approval. It's not based on our salary schedule, and this policy needed some badly needed updates and refreshing, so
Well, we're pleased to see it more accurately reflect
thank you.
the status of the district. Are there other comments or questions? Seeing none. It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, Ms. Breen.
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
And the motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Dr. Ayton, please don't go far. We're
I'm
doing
not.
revisions to policy GCO, evaluation of licensed personnel. And this is an action item, and a motion is welcome at this time.
I move that the Board of Education of Wall County School District 6 approve the revisions to policy GCO, evaluation of licensed personnel as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Dr. Ayton, a little
We-
highlight?
Yes, we've added 9 words to this policy, as you can see. We did not know when we were kind of out on the front edge of getting the policies to you concerning SB 191. We were not sure at that time where the state was going to settle on the terms around the student growth measures and what those would be if they were less than satisfactory. And now we know that those are much less than expected growth and less than expected growth. Of course, if you're in the more satisfactory range, that would be expected or more than expected growth. And those are included in the regulation, but not part of this policy, because this deals with when things are not going well, in essence. So we needed to include those 2 terms. That's it.
Comments or questions? I see no lights. Therefore, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, Ms. Bray?
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
And the motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for the indulgence.
Well, thank you very much. We get to see all of our favorites this evening. Revisions to policy DJ/DJA, purchasing and purchasing authority. Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Megan Sponsler, is here to guide us through a little of this if we have further questions. This is also an action item, and a motion is due at this time.
I move the Board of Education of Wall County School District 6 approve the revisions to policy DJ/DJA, purchasing/purchasing authority as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Sponsler.
All right, thank you. As you can see, the only change to this policy that we are recommending is the change of the dollar amount at which board approves purchases. Currently, that threshold is $50,000, and we are requesting that that be changed to $100,000. This is one, so that we can be more efficient and effective with our resources, because it does take a lot of time to prepare the documentation to come to the board for approval. But it also allows us to be a little, react a little bit faster to situations as they come up, where sometimes we would be in the middle of something and then have to stop a project so that we could get board approval. So that's really the reasoning behind this. The other thing I would just note is that the dollar amount of $50,000 has been in place for as long as I have been with the district, and I was asking Mr. Eads how long he thought it had been in place, and he couldn't remember the last time it had been changed. So Over the course of the many years, our budget has obviously increased in size, and so this increase in the spending limit would be helpful.
Okay, Mr. Hafley, go ahead.
As always, thanks for your efforts. My question is, purchasing something, is this also with consultants as well?
Yes.
Is there a quick sketch that you can give of other districts in the area that have similar
Yes,
signing authority, I said?
We've done some research, and really districts are all over the board when it comes to this threshold. Some are at 50,000, others are at 100,000, and some are at 250,000. We didn't want to take that big of a leap, but we felt that it was time to increase it to 100,000 for the reasons I stated earlier.
There was a recent encounter in which we were working with the Success Foundation to get in some new computers, and we kind of reached that pause point of, you know, we've got X number of computers that will bring us up to $51,000 and suddenly couldn't meet that turn as quickly.
Exactly.
I'm familiar
Yep.
with that as an example to move this to the 100,000.
That's a good example, yes.
Mr. Hafley.
You know, I really appreciate the hard component of this, but I struggle with the consultant fee. And that's where I'm leery about this whole deal.
Mr. Hall.
This may be, may prove to be more efficient, may be expeditory. However, I think the timing of it's all wrong. I think that we are making this adjustment before we even have our captain of the ship sitting at the chair to discuss it and to talk about the merits of doing it and to go further. And I'm not in favor of it at this time. Doesn't mean it wouldn't be possibly down the road, but that's why I will absolutely be voting no against this.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Lees.
I think transparency and trust is still an issue. Although you do an amazing job, there is still this reputation out there that we still have to work with. And so I kind of agree with Steve that it's kind of premature until we get a staff leader involved, and I do have a concern with the consultants also.
Other comments? Dr. Richard. Excuse me. Go
Well,
ahead.
While I don't have a concern about specific areas and a decision-making power there, I do find that as a board member, this gives me more information to know how the money is being spent and things that are going on in the district, and so I also will be voting no.
Okay. There's been that discussion, and we have moved and seconded this. Ms. Brandt.
Mr. DeWitt?
I think I'm still voting aye in favor of the applications as we've discussed them, but I certainly understand and appreciate the other opinions being expressed.
Mr. Hafley?
Opposed.
Mr. Hall?
Nay.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
No.
Mrs. Solis?
No.
And the motion fails 2-4.
Thank you. And Ms. Bonsler, please don't go anywhere. We're doing revisions to policy DJE, bidding procedures, and again, a motion is welcome at this time.
I move that, I move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 approve the revisions to policy DJE, bidding procedures as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Bonsler?
Okay. This revision is being brought forward because this is more reflective of our actual practice and provides clarity around what purchases must be bid competitively. This revision also maintains the board's right to reject bids and to accept bids which appear to be in the best interest of the district.
So, comments, questions from board members at this time? Mr. Hall.
Megan, forgive me, I couldn't quite hear you. Basically, the only change is to change from 5 to 10,000 bidding authority requirement?
There's some other changes, however, this is more reflective of our actual practice.
Okay.
It just clarifies things.
Okay, all right.
Seeing no other comments or questions, roll call, Ms. Brand.
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Dr. Richard? Aye. Mrs. Solis?
He was trying to trick you.
And the motion carries 6-0.
Congratulations to everyone. This represents the end of our work session and our work duty this evening. Thanks to all the participants who stood with us for these many, many actions and changes. This board meeting is now adjourned. Good night.